The on-air light's on, Mike.
Awesome.
We're official.
We are official. It's about time we're official. We're coming up on the 100th episode pretty soon, my friend.
You know what? I'm
going to bring a cake.
I'm so appreciative of the fact that the people take time to listen to what we do.
Yeah.
I don't know. This sounds like a negative confession. It's not. I didn't know when we started how long this thing would last. But look at us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still the ones.
And still reaching out further. When I did that marching band director's band, I brought little note cards and I wrote some of the info on it and copied them on my copier, and I passed them out to people. So now I think we might have some people from Japan and
cool.
And
you know what? I have
world,
because I'm the nerd that goes and looks at the analytics. It is amazing the places that we actually get listened to. I'm very appreciative.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you actually have smart things to say that make people want to.
Well, after the 100th episode, I might run out of smart things. So, be like a preacher. I've got 3 points to make. And today I do have 3
Then
points.
you pull out the golden oldies.
That's right.
So, okay. Life of our world as we start this episode. We're inching up towards, in Texas, our adjudication season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think some people are right there knocking on the door like next week.
Some go, some go this next week. Yeah.
And some
about
a month out. So, what should we be feeling, Mike? What is a band director besides
panic? Yeah, it's but you're right. It's I always jokingly, but sort of serious. People say, "How can you describe what you do for a living now?" And I said, "I give psychological and emotional support to band directors while pretending to work with their groups." So it's that sense of panic kind of hits. So our episode today is going to be on the idea of how can we kind of center our thought process as a director and kind of focus on some things so we just don't go off the edge of the cliff, and let our emotions overtake us as far as that sense of anxiety. Because, it's like a college football coach, our whole career in some ways, I hate to say this, but it is kind of based on what we do at contest, and it shouldn't be that way. And the contest is actually, it's kind of unfair. When I go judge these things, I'm doing like 6 days of judging this season. And, I get to hear a band, maybe a 1A band play maybe 7 minutes worth of music total. And then I've got to make an evaluation on what I think of that program. But the school sees it as a vindication or validation of the entire year.
Right.
So it's kind of an unfair situation, but it's all we got, and it's what's made us really, really good, as bands. But I just want to throw that out there. We're just trying to alleviate some of that anxiety for my director friends out there.
So I know exactly what you're talking about. I've had this curiosity. Again, I went to school for it all, but I never did it. I was never in the trenches like you guys. Is there a point where you kind of have to click from I'm teaching this to whoop, getting close enough now, I need to make sure we're actually starting to polish some of this?
Yes.
I'm starting to put some bows and ribbons on it and shining it up.
And also, there's a point of where, the great thought is we want to teach a man how to fish. We don't want to give them a fish, but we're at the point now we're going to slap them in the face with said fish.
Say, here's your fish.
Here's the fish. Eat the fish. And so that anxiety kicks in of like, oh my gosh, we've gone with all this stuff and these fundamentals. And now what are things I can do in the final 2 weeks that I can acknowledge from my viewpoint as a director that can help them the most, other than let's play concert F around the room for 45 minutes while we don't actually know exactly what we're supposed to wear for the concert. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there's things that have to be done. So I've got it kind of broken down into 3 things, Derek. And stop doing something as a director, start doing something as a director, and then I will delineate these, and then getting better at something you're already doing. So if we just kind of focus on 3 things.
It's a little vague there.
It is. But see, I left it vague because the director has to input what they are going to stop doing as an individual, what they're going to start doing in this final 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and what they want to get better with that they're already doing well within their program. So it might be totally different depending on the director. you know?
Okay.
So I think we complicate it almost too much because we can blame the complications instead of ourselves. It's how many times it's, oh, my principal doesn't like me and the school board won't give me enough money for my budget. And these are real concerns. But I know plenty of band programs that have won gold medals at state marching on a budget of about $6,000 total for the year for their entire program. It can be done. It's hard. We all fight an uphill battle. And I was really spoiled in my last years, as a full time director because the school really supported no holds barred. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But I did work 13 years as a 1A, 2A band director, and I felt that pain as well. But it's actually, there's some simple things. There's some simple
Okay.
things we can do with this. Um, the first one is, with recordings or just listening to the band or asking the kids, can you hear the melody where the melody exists, or is the accompaniment too loud or too much? What line is the most important one? We get we get ear blind. You know what I
Right.
mean? To just hearing the same thing over and over again. And I like to tell them, stolen from my friend Dane Richardson at
Here, say,
home.
I hear a Dane coming on.
It's coming. If you have the melody, project the melody. If you don't have the melody, protect the melody. And I liken it to my grandsons. I have one grandson that's 9 months old, and he has to be protected. I have
Right.
one that's 4 years old, and I have to be protected from him. So, my middle grandson is the accompaniment, but the youngest one right now is the melody because that he has to be protected. He can't feed himself, can't do anything. You know what I mean? Except cuddle with you, which is plenty.
It's great.
So
Yeah.
they've got to figure that out. And something as simple as asking the kids, who has the melody, and I do this every once in a while at a clinic because the kids get a kick out of it. The tubas especially. But I tell them, so, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to play this portion of the music from here to here. And then I want everyone to stand up when you have the melody. And then I want you to squat, not sit in your chair, but squat when you don't have the melody, but still play your horn. And it's just goofy enough that they do. And all of a sudden, the trumpet players go, oh my God, the flutes have the melody with us. I had no idea,
I had no
so
idea. Yeah.
it's just goofy enough. I mean, do they make good sounds when they do that? Of course not, because they're like, do it. But I guess with our new marching band
Here, say,
repertoire,
the
they're
wood
used
on
to
the
doing
field.
body movements. Do a plie when you have the melody. um, but it's interesting to watch their brains, process that information because we all like to play what we would like to play, and then some composers write so well that every line is a good line. So people might think they have the most important line because their line is really kind of fun to play, but that
Right.
doesn't make it the most important line. So,
So, but
you are the
the other
director.
thing I think that does great thought is sometimes we get lost in the line that's in front of us. We get lost in the sheet of music that's in front of us, not realizing how it affects or complements and or takes away from, if we do it incorrectly, all the other people that have music understand. And so it's kind of a great eye opener to, oh wow, I didn't realize those other, just like you said, trumpets, like, the flutes play that with us,
Yeah, I had no idea.
and we're supposed to balance.
Or it might be a
So
flute clarinet thing on the march that no one else in the band knows it even exists because they're playing their parts just a little too loud to hear the
right,
woodwinds at the front of the band. So it takes a lot of skill. Not skill, it takes a lot of persistence to get them to do it. I like to talk to the band about if everyone had a little gauge on top of their head that showed if they listened just to themselves, the gauge points straight up. If they listen to the person to their left, it points to the left. If to the right, it points to the right. And said, for most of us right now, our gauges are pointing straight up because all we're really listening to is what we're doing. And so the first rule is, you have to listen to what you're doing, but you've got to listen to your trio. Those are the people on either side, or if you're on the end of the row, front to back, whatever. And then we go to the section, then we go to the full band. But it's amazing how much those kids fix
right.
when you just convince them to listen to each other. You don't have to delineate every little thing. Make the notes the same length. Listen to each other instead of, I want this shorter, no longer, no shorter, no longer. No, that's almost it. We're almost there, And it's like, just listen to each other. And I don't care how long you make it. Just listen to each other. Everyone in the band make it the same way. Let's play this about 5 times. And they will do it. Most
Very
bands will
safe.
do that.
Is that a quiet part? if everybody does it wrong the same way, you have to say it's right.
Well,
That didn't come out right, but you know what I mean.
no, that came out absolutely correct. UIL, I mean, they can disagree as a judge on what you're doing stylistically, but if the band does it perfectly together with release and with attack in the same articulation and the same tonal quality and tune, it's really hard to
That's
justify
their interpretation. Yeah.
their interpretation. It's like I tell directors, when you change something you're going to do, write it in the score so the judge can see that it's my argument as a judge is with the director, not the kids not doing what the music says. So I mean, you said the quiet part out loud. Now we're going to be like censored by UIL, but Brad Kent's going to show up in Abilene and take my microphone. But yeah, and I think everyone knows that, but we don't really practice it. Band, it just has to be the same. It has to be uniform.
Okay.
And the next thing, if you're crazy enough to play something slow and lyrical, because by the way, we've beat this ad nauseum, but you do not have to play a slow tune at contest. You can play it at the spring concert. If your band really excels at playing beautifully emotive, slow lyrical pieces, go for it. If they can't do it, don't do it. I always say, if you don't have any teeth and you're in a beauty contest, just don't smile.
Don't smile.
Use whatever they're assets that God gave you in the beauty contest. Just don't smile. So in band, if your band can't play lyrically and play slow pieces, work it out at the Christmas concert, spring concert, do it chorales, get them to that level, but don't just show up at contest and just do that. Okay. Smooth in a slow piece doesn't mean not precise. And kids interpret it that way because they'll hear the solo lines having a little bit of rubato. We kind of give and take with that. The accompaniment needs to be like that piano player, or that orchestral accompaniment. They just do their thing, and then we fit our solo lines around them. But I fall prey to that sometimes when I'm playing in an ensemble. It's like I'm listening to the soloist and I'm trying to make my accompaniment line fit the soloist, and that is absolutely incorrect. We just play our accompaniment and the soloist does what they're going to do. The melody line plays the melody and they might pull back on beat 4, but it's not my job to pull back on beat 4. It's my job just to play my part and change whole note on count 1. I don't worry about I hate to say it this way. I don't worry so much about the musicality of the line. If I'm the accompanying part, I just make sure my notes are pretty and beautiful and in tune and precise, with good attacks and correct articulations and releases.
So you're fundamental about
do your fundamentals, because I'm just the supporting actor at this point. I'm not the star. Now if I get to play a trumpet solo on a Percy Grainger piece, yeah, I'm gonna, within the context of what the conductor will allow me to do, I will be as rubato as I want to until they go, Lunney, settle down.
Calm down.
Yeah, calm down. This isn't all about you. And I said, well, I thought it was. I've got the cornet solo. It is about
But
me.
the flip side of that, Mike, is that as a soloist, you can't get comfortable if the accompaniment is not rock solid, like what you're saying.
Oh, yes. It's like walking on marbles. Yeah. It's like you have no idea where beat 1's going to happen, or you can't even hear the band breathe before they play. And you're the soloist going, are they going to come in?
Where are they?
And as a director, that's the scariest moment to me. And I don't want that fake. Work on your band taking a nice, good breath. Breathe deeper. Don't play louder. I don't want the fake, like slurping the air between your teeth kind of thing. But there should be a natural that you hear from the band. So many times I'll do a clinic and I'll give the upbeat. I don't hear a thing. And that's frightening. Yeah, because then I give the downbeat and generally they will play. But I'm like, man, how do y'all even know that you're together?
Nobody prepped.
No one actually took a real breath right there. So, just make sure to work on that. An easy one. Do your kids have their horns set on their face before the breath occurs? Across the ensemble in all instances, do they just bring the horn to their face? You know what I mean? How many times do we start our band and we're looking at the music as a conductor? We're looking at our music, and then
not paying attention to them. Yeah.
Yeah. And someone else, a clinician or assistant band director, if you're lucky enough to have one of those around, will come up and say, half the band doesn't even have their horn on their face when you give the downbeat because you're looking at the music. So, and the kids get real used to that. It's like, well, I'll play when when everyone starts playing, I'll start playing, because he'll probably stop in a measure anyway. So just make sure that they have their horns to their face. And on top of that, make sure they bring the horn to their face and not their face to the horn. I don't know how many,
Right.
especially younger bands, they'll pick up their trombone and they'll kind of stick their face forward to get to the trombone because it just, for some reason, feels comfortable to them. But just keep everything lined up and just bring the instrument right up to your mouth, to your face. And that seems real common sense, but a lot of kids just, I don't know why we do that, but a lot of kids just do that. You're the one in charge, as the kid is of their instrument. And so that student has to bring that horn to their face. Okay. They don't bring their face to the
Right.
horn.
They're not subservient to the instrument, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We tell the instrument what to do. It might be the only thing we can tell what to do, but it might be the only thing we can control that day. So enjoy it, students. Enjoy it. Okay. Are the
So,
students?
Mike, on that thought, did you make eye contact? Is that as opposed to contact with the music when you're looking up to see if everybody's ready? Do you kind of do a quick scan to see if you got eyes?
Yeah, and just to kind of pick at my director friends, do not give a downbeat looking at your score. That is absolutely stupid.
Yeah.
It's almost like I'm at an intersection and the light is going to turn green, so I'm just going to close my eyes and then I'm going to go.
Right. It
Yeah,
should be green.
yeah. I think it's about to turn green. Here we go. It's so hard not to do because it's our security blanket. It's our Linus blanket. You know what I mean, from Charlie Brown. So we want to look at the music, but I got towards the end of my career. The scores in front of me at contest was just a general like cue cards.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I would probably usually filter it down to just a flute part for the march. And I'd write little notes to myself on the flute part. Because at contests, you don't need to stop and tell someone there's a G sharp. If they
Right.
miss it, they miss it. So keep it as like a flow chart in front of you. That way it helps me keep my eyes out of the music because I
I'd
just
also say this. If we've rehearsed the same piece of music for the last 4 to 6 weeks, you can't tell me they don't know what the first note is.
yeah. Yeah, and we
N-
should know. We don't even, and what's funny is we'll stare at our music and we don't even need to know what the first note is, do we?
Right.
We
Right.
just need to know the tempo, you know, just figure out the tempo and give a downbeat. And there's something comforting about, you know, looking and the conductor seeing the eyes of the students and back and forth kind of thing. In fact, I did
Right.
that little trumpet ensemble thing at a Team EA and
Mhm.
Bernie Scher, he's a composer. And he made comment to me afterwards. He goes, you know what? Out of the whole trumpet ensemble said, you might not be the strongest player.
Wow.
He said, but every time I looked over at you to give a cue, you were looking at me. You're the only one that did that. And I said, well, that's because I've been a band director for 50 years.
Right.
So I know that comfort thing. If I'm the one conducting, I want to see their eyes. So if I had a little exposed part, I was looking at Bernie. I was like, oh,
Right.
here it comes. I memorized that part of the music so I could make eye contact and he would look at me and give me the downbeat. So if you can get your kids tied into that, they know the music better than they think they know the music.
Right.
They just like staring at it. Yeah, and we like staring at it kind of thing.
Sure.
So it's just something to think about.
Just threw that in. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. Said our students, do they match the energy and intensity of sound across the section, across the ensemble, regardless of volume? What I mean by that is a lot of times our bands, when they play soft, will play weak. When they play in a stronger volume, they will play harsh. It's not the same musical intensity. So it's like it should be the same tonal quality. It's just a different volume. And it even says on the rubric, said, does the band crescendo and decrescendo without distortion? That's a key
Okay.
item in the rubrics. And I think a lot of bands fall short of that because we get used to it. If you listen to a band, when they play stronger in volume, they'll tend to tongue harder when it really doesn't say to tongue harder.
Sure.
If they play softer, they'll just play weak. And I like to explain to them that it's like a PVC pipe. If I play my horn, I imagine like a 4-inch PVC pipe air column if I'm playing fortissimo. If I'm playing soft, I imagine like the airstream of a McDonald's straw. But the air moves the same speed. It just goes through a smaller opening, for an air column. It's not a matter of weak and strong. It's a matter of soft and higher volumes.
Because I'm going to say, I think my entire career musically, I've heard people say softer does not mean less air.
Yes. And we run into that problem, especially, this is funny to say, especially with really good smart bands, because they see pianissimo at the beginning of this pretty piece, and they all play so pianissimo that it's like we can't really discern what's happening on stage. And so I kind of tell them, and it's the truth, said I don't think in 30 years of judging I've ever written this little woodwind feature at the beginning is just way too loud. But I've written a lot of times this little woodwind thing at the beginning, I can't really tell exactly what you're doing. It's kind of a little imprecise. The tone qualities aren't as good as they were in the previous piece. And so if it says pianissimo at the beginning and you have a little woodwind entry, I always tell those kids, said, just mark those out, put mezzo forte. If it's a pretty sound, the P stands for pretty. It doesn't stand for soft. Just play pretty. And that's a real common mistake with all bands. So, including my own band, until clinicians come in and go, hey, Lunney, I can't tell what they're doing on American Elegy here at the beginning. I can't either. I don't know what to do. Just play louder. Oh,
sometimes I hear the silent "ask me how I know" when you're giving some of this advice.
Yeah. Yeah, you've heard a number of bands at contests. We all make the same mistakes, Yeah. We make the same mistakes in band. We all make the same mistakes in life for the most part. Okay. There's common mistakes that happen. Okay. Are you allowing the students playing your main instrument? I'm a trumpet player, to play outside the ensemble sound because it does not bother you as a listener. It's funny at contests. It might be a director I don't know, but then after the band plays the march, I go, I bet she's a trombone player.
Yeah.
Because the trombones sound gorgeous, but it's like trombone with band accompaniment on the King March. And it's like, that's not quite what we're looking for. And I never go back and ask them. But in a clinic, if I don't know the director really well, if I hear that, I'll go, what do you play? Oh, I play saxophone. Oh, that makes sense now. Okay.
Sure.
Because a good friend of mine, Mr. Bill Woods, he's passed away now. He's a great band director. He was my Abilene band daddy. But he told me one time, this is tongue in cheek, but he goes, if you ever hear a saxophone at contest and it's not a solo, that's a second division and we're going down from there. So you saxophone players out there, I apologize for Mr. Wood's statement, but there's a little bit of truth to that because those saxophones can get they can honk and roar, can't they? And it's so it's like, you never want to hear a saxophone above the ensemble sound. You don't want to hear any instrument. There's something about that saxophone sound that just grates on your nerves if they just kind of buzzsaw through, especially bari sax and tenor sax. Oh my gosh,
So I was getting ready to say that sometimes I see some of our smaller groups, some of our lower classifications where they don't have necessarily low brass. I've seen groups go to contests without a tuba.
Yeah, and can still make a one.
And they kind of have to compensate that with a bass clarinet and or bari sax and or some of those lower reeds. But I do think your point is very valid. It doesn't mean we want to hear like jazz band bari sax solo.
Yeah.
Covering the bottom end. It still has to blend and balance.
Yeah, that moment as a judge, you're looking at the stage looking for the metal mouthpieces. I think those kids are using metal mouthpieces. I'm not sure.
Bird Larson on stage?
Yeah. And and my saxophone friends will kill me for saying this because they will say, just teach your kids how to play the proper volume on saxophone. But for those younger kids, as you're getting close to contests, there's nothing wrong with a Nerf ball. You can put a Nerf ball on the bell. And I know that's not the right way to do it. I'll preface it with that. You're correct. But sometimes you just got to get through whatever this big performance is, and then we can pull out the Nerf balls. If you don't want to pay for that, I used a 4x4 inch, that insulation that
just cut some discs
from Lowe's that they use around air conditioners for window units. And we just take a pair of scissors and cut them and just put them sideways in there. And we just don't want it to go so far down that it messes up covers tone holes or something. But we just called them saxophone mutes.
Yep.
Saxophone mutes.
I remember well.
Yeah. So it's my saxophone friends will now flood my inbox with cussing
Say
at me
Dr.
profusely.
Loudenback's going to chastise me over this, but
Yeah, and they are correct. We do need to teach them how to play correctly. It's like telling a trumpet, just I know you can't play soft enough, so just drape a towel over your entire body and your horn. Yeah, it's like we don't do that to our trumpets. So why do we do that? I don't know. But it's not the right thing to do, but it's the right thing to do. Okay,
until it is. It's
until it
not
is.
until
Yeah.
it is.
And here's a really good one that's have you listened to the band from somewhere else other than the podium? Get your feet off the podium, because we do that as we're like,
We'll
if you're
talk about that in a
a
minute. What do
band,
you mean?
we're in the captain's chair. Let it be so, or engage,
You're
or
the
whatever.
director.
Yeah, you're the director. That's our throne, man. That's our position of power. It's like Game of Thrones, and we just won the podium. Get your butt off the podium, because all you hear is one perspective from there. So I like to do it, and this is for discipline too. I like to have an aisle down the middle of my band if it's a bigger band. I mean, it's like even 60 kids or bigger. Just put a little aisle. That way, I always say to myself, I never say this to the kids. I say, and I never slap a kid, but I always say, I want to be within 3 seconds of slapping distance. From any kid in the ensemble, whether it's a bass drummer or a flute player. And I would never, reach out and hit a kid, but it's just kind of funny to think of it that way. But boy, they know if I jump off that podium and run down my little runway, they know, ooh, where's he going? It gets everyone's attention. It's
Sure.
trombone day, is it, Mr. Lunney?
That's
Or
funny.
it's bass drummer day. But also not just getting yourself off the podium, but when they record their bands, they almost always do it nowadays with their phone from their podium or behind their podium. One day just kind of set the stand over way to the side, on the against the wall of the band hall to the right. The next day, do it to the left. Next day, do it to the back. Of course, all you'll hear is drums then, but it's all right. But it's okay, because what you've got to do, you've got to hear what the kids are hearing.
Right.
Because we always tell our band, make sure you balance. Does anyone out there ever realize that the band cannot hear the true balanced sound from the podium? It's impossible. What you're doing, whether we know it or not, you're training the tuba player. How loud do I have to play? And what does my sound like compared to the band? They can't hear the balance of the band. They can't. It's physically impossible.
Right.
So it's something that you've got to key yourself into that this is what your euphoniums are hearing back here. They can't hear the flutes to save their lives, on this particular section. So you've got to tell them, you've got to trust me, guys. I need you to play a little bit stronger here, because you got the same part as the flutes on this little King March. And I want you to balance with them, and I need more euphoniums. But we can't hear the flutes. I know you can't, but I can. So you've got to trust me just a little bit stronger. Then you get it there and you say, now lock it in, 3D print it. That's going to be your dynamic level for this King March. Even though you can't really hear the flutes from all the other things that are happening around you, it's a matter of trust. We have to trust them. They have to trust us.
That's interesting you say that too. I also have noticed, it's not a new phenomenon, but once everybody started building the PACs, the performing arts centers, in their districts, and they do it correct acoustics, it will not sound the same in that acoustic environment as it sounds from your podium.
Correct.
I've heard so many people go, man, I've never heard that like that before. And maybe you can circumvent some of that by recording from different angles and or getting off that podium and going around and going, oh, wow, that's a lot stronger than I realized it was. Or
if you're really lucky, if you have an assistant band director, have them conduct the march, and you go to the back of the auditorium and just listen, or get a Zoom thing on your phone and just record from way back there. I know it sounds like OCD, but I like to kind of record in an auditorium from where I think the judges might be sitting.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they're going to hear. And if you don't have an assistant band director, I worked 13 years as the only band director, my first 13 years. So there's always some kid that's a really good musician that I could work with for like an hour and show them how to conduct this piece. And they got a real kick out of it, so they would conduct that piece while I sat in the back of the auditorium and rehearsed the band, isn't that cool? And then sometimes I'd let them conduct it on the spring concert. I said, Leroy is going to, on first trombone, is going to conduct this piece for us. He helped me out in this. And did he conduct really well? No, but neither do I. So it's and face it, the principal can walk in and go 1, 2, ready, play, and they're going to play it.
Yeah, but from the same standpoint, from a rehearsal standpoint, just take your recorder back there.
Yeah.
And you'll have a couple of seconds of dead air while you walk back up to the band.
Yeah.
But at least you can listen to it later and go, oh, wow, from that vantage point, I hear this, and this that I might not have known before.
And with especially a slow piece, if you don't have anyone on the podium, you can really get them to teach them how to breathe and do their own prep by going to the back of the auditorium and say, okay, I want you guys to start this piece. And they will look at you like you're insane at first.
Right. What do you mean?
And what do you mean? And then they'll do it really poorly for about 5 times in a row. Then all of a sudden they'll all kind of look around and they'll kind of get prepped and they'll get their horn to their face and the whole band will go. Then they'll play. Isn't that cool? They'll prep
really
themselves. Cool. And I've done that at like my warm-up chorale for all region bands. When I do an all region honor band, I'll say, I'll be to the side of the stage. I'm going to look at you. And then when we're getting ready to warm up, I'm just going to look and I'm going to say, hey, band, let's go and play the function chorale number 4. And they've already practiced it in rehearsal doing this. And the audience just eats it up. Because there's no director on stage and the whole band just all of a sudden gets this gorgeous sound. They just all go, and they play, Is it perfect? No, but it's really cool. And
it's really cool.
It teaches the band to listen to each other instead of just use their visual stuff. Okay. This is a good one because this is my biggest pet peeve of myself, because I think I could not have percussion in the back of the band and I probably wouldn't notice them for a month that they were gone. They were there at Dunkin' Donuts, drinking coffee and eating kolaches. So have you communicated what you expect to the percussion section musicians the same way you have to the winds? Or are you just leaving that to the percussionist or not addressing it at all? # you are the conductor.
Just a reminder.
Yeah. Don't be afraid. And I'm, cause I don't know percussion pedagogy to a certain level, but I do know when a percussionist plays a bass drum, that's not the sound I wanted. But I can run back there and put my hand on that bass drum and figure out where I want to put my hand and where I want to place the beater, maybe between the first finger and the thumb, and do a circle or do straight, whatever it is. I can pull that sound that I want and I can say, okay, now you do exactly what I just did. Is that proper percussion pedagogy? Probably not. If you're really lucky, I had a percussion specialist, there was a band director. So they just took care of all that for me. But, there was times 2 weeks before contest, Derek, that all of a sudden a kid would go, is anyone ever going to play that tambourine part, Mr. Lunney? Go, what? Yeah, there's a tambourine part in this piece and no one's ever played it because we all have parts that we just thought you were going to get to it somewhere along the way. But, it's crap. It's like 4 rehearsals now till we get a contest.
Right.
And then usually at that point I'd go, musically, I don't think we need that tambourine part. I'm thinking, oh my God, so I hope the judges don't notice that. And I'd just kind of mark out the tambourine part in the score and say, we have limited percussion or whatever, and just hope for the best, hope for the grace and mercy of my judging panel. But yeah, that's an honest, true story. I had no idea there's a tambourine part in that piece until the kids
never missed it.
Yeah, I never missed it because, when you look at the bottom, it's just a bunch of X's and circles and dashes, and you have to look at the beginning of the score. Oh, that's tambourine. No, the 4th space is going to be tam-tam. No, the 3rd space is going to be, so I have no idea. And a percussionist can look at that. I had a band the other day, and it's chasing a rabbit hole, but they were playing Expectations, and I can't remember who it's by. It's a beautiful piece, but the piece has in it, it says brushes, and then it says sticks. So we do brushes, right? And then we do sticks. On the recording, unbeknownst to the director, because I had to point it out, they were using their sticks on the head during the brush part, and then they were doing stick clicks. So here's this beautiful chorale, beautiful, gorgeous piece, and they're going click, 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 click. And I go, we finished the recording. I go, let's talk. They should be using brushes at the beginning. And that part is on the snare head. Tap, 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 tap. It's not snare clicks. It's not rhythm sticks. So I'm just as bad. So if the person out there I'm talking about is listening to this, which I think they are, I think they are. They'll get a chuckle out of it because I did test it. Man, I'd have missed it too. I missed an entire tambourine part in a 4-minute piece. You know, so take that for what it's worth. Okay, and here's the next one. Are you allowing the kids to play out of tune because you're trying to cram for a contest?
That's kind of, I think that in our prior conversation, that's kind of what I'm talking about. You are so busy about trying to get everything in there and done that you just overlook a multitude.
Yeah. Are we busy chasing notes?
Yeah. That's a great saying.
And usually if we're busy chasing notes that they don't have the technique under their fingers yet, they can't do anything else with the music. And it's either how we rehearsed inefficiently, or perhaps we picked too hard a program. And I've done that. I'm not throwing stones again. It's like you get like 2 weeks prior and you're thinking, oh my God, what have I done? We're still chasing notes on Vesuvius. How are we going to play this at contest? And we survived, but I probably should have played an easier piece. And there's sometimes in the listening sessions, if there's like a month to go, that with all respect, we've looked at each other as the three listening to it and just gone, do you want us to be honest or do you want us to be nice? Always get the permission first. And then it's like, this piece, you're doing Atlantis by Anne McGinty. It's not going to happen. Let's get out Crusader and do that one, or whatever, another piece, and said, your band could sight read that and play it in about 5 days. Let's throw Atlantis onto the spring concert so the kids don't feel like we wasted their time and you didn't waste your time. But I promise you, you don't have an alto sax who can play the solo. Your flutes don't play in tune on this, because that's a lot harder piece than it looks like on the page. It's one of those deceptive ones, like Declaration Overture by Claude T. Smith, that sounds really good when you sight read it. Then it gets better for about 2 weeks. Then it never gets any better.
And then plateaus. Yeah.
It plateaus, and it just never gets any better unless you've got like a collegiate level wind ensemble. Gary Garner, he pointed it out. There's a piece called Air for Band that used to be on the grade 1 list. And then now they've moved it to the grade 3 list. Isn't that interesting? I remember playing it in junior high, and he was doing a clinic at TMEA on tuning, and he had his wonderful WT wind ensemble. And so he had him play, and then he turned around at the end of it, he goes, did you hear all those intonation problems that occurred? And we were all just kind of like, yeah, there were some spots. He goes, there's not a band in the world that can play this piece in tune. It can't be done. Said it can't be done. So guys, if you're at a 1A school, don't you dare play something else. Play Kentucky 1800, whatever. Do not play Air for Band by Erickson. Said it's a beautiful piece. He said, and we'll probably play. He goes, we'll play probably as a little warm up for our little spring concert thing. But you'd better have college kids to play this, because it's that hard to play in tune, because the tessitura, the ranges of the instruments, and where they put the notes,
where they slot. Yeah.
Something to think about. So don't just let them do bad habits just because you're chasing notes. And I say that with this disclaimer: the judges will forgive. I hope, don't hold me to this. The judges will forgive sometimes some wrong notes if you play that wrong note in tune with a good sound.
We've said that before.
Yeah, if they play out of tune with a bad sound, they just sound like a band that's never been educated. If they play in tune with good tone and they miss some notes or a rhythm structure, then as a judge, you're kind of going, well, obviously this band's been taught. They just kind of had a brain fart right there. So that's the rationale with it. I would rather the judges hear good tone and tuning. If you're just chasing notes, get out a black Sharpie and start removing notes. You might only have one clarinet that can play that run. Don't have 5 trying to play it. Just say, just for contest, just don't play this part. And then we'll just have Susie do this. And then at spring concert, we're all back in. Until then, go ahead and do all the fingerings. So I'm going to put you back in. So, but for contest, it's like in basketball, you tell your team who they're supposed to foul at the end so you can get those free throws. They purposely foul the weakest free throw player. In band, we're kind of the opposite. We need to pick the kids who can play the part, who can do it. If they can't all do it, it's okay. The president said,
we're at that point, though. Yeah.
Not that they can't play, but sometimes it's just a volume issue. You don't want 15 piccolos playing a part. So just things to think about on that. So, still relate back to the fundamentals. Don't chase notes during those last 2 weeks. You can work on it, but your main thing is going to be tuning, posture, tone quality.
Tone is
That's going to
job
be your
one.
main things, you know. And the next one, if I ask, I love asking directors this. If you're the director I'm working with, Derek, what's the one thing you've let go in your rehearsals because you said to yourself you would fix it later?
Later, yeah.
And then what is it? And when will you fix it?
Are we there
And
yet?
and then I just leave a big giant pregnant pause right there while they think about it. And then if they can't come up with an answer, I'll tell them the answer. I say, okay, I heard your band play, and this is what you've let go. And we all do that. There's things we just it's not what we want to do. A lot of times, directors don't want to work on tuning and tone quality because it's really hard to work
Yeah.
on tuning and tone quality. Rhythm and notes are black and white, literally. It's just black and white. That's a dotted 16th. Let's do that for 100 times. A proper tone quality and intonation and the throat tones of a clarinet, that's hard to work on. You've got to
Right.
know alternate fingerings. You've got to know things. So don't be afraid to dip your toe in that water, directors. If it's out of tune, my friend Anthony Gibson says it best. Just pick two kids and say, play that note. It's out of tune. Fix it. And wait for them. They'll fix it. Now add one more person. Add one more. Train their ears. Do a little bit of that every day. And you don't have to have a degree in intonation. People traditionally, or I guess naturally, they want to hear music in tune. We all hear that American
Agreed.
Idol
Yeah.
person who's singing really flat. And I don't care. My dad, who doesn't have a musical bone in his body at all, he can go, that doesn't sound good. They're singing flat. And I said, you
Right.
don't even know what flat is. And I'm not sure, but I know that that's flat. So it's kind of get the kids to figure that out. One thing with tuning, I'll throw out there, it's always great to play in tune, right? But if you must be out of tune, be sharp. Be a little bit sharp. Flat, even Grandma Susie in the back row can go, that ain't sounding good to me. If the kids play out of tune and the kids playing a little bit sharp, it's not near as noticeable as kids who are playing flat.
That's great. My brain was running around while you said some of that. Laughing about your dad making that comment. The flip side of that is just because the kid's playing flat doesn't mean he's a bad player. It just means you haven't taught him how to play in tune yet.
Yeah.
Or you haven't made him listen and
Yes.
do the corrections.
Isn't that exactly the truth? You haven't made him do it,
Right.
And so sometimes you just have to stop and go and just ask the kids, said, what's the thing? This is a great question to ask your band. To stop them and go, what in that last little moment before we stopped was the most incorrect thing happening? And the first time you ask a question like that, they'll all stare at you as if the preacher just asked the congregation. There's that artificial glass wall that you don't answer the preacher. They're going, what? He's asking us a question? And then you have to kind of cajole them and get it out of. So, well, there's no
I
wrong
also
answer.
think human nature thinks you're trying to trick them.
Yeah. And I always tell them, said, the question I just asked has no right or wrong answer. You can't be wrong.
In your opinion.
Yeah. So in your opinion, what was the thing you would work on this? And they might go at tuning. They say, oh, no, we just did this wrong, or we didn't stop together. And all of a sudden you get all this whole classroom full of little tiny assistant band directors. And sometimes it'll be overwhelming because then they'll start to tell you things. And you're like, whoa, chill out, guys. Chill. I've got a lesson plan here, said, I'm still the alpha. Give me a break here, but it's really cool when they get to that. Okay. A real easy one that almost every clinic, have you checked the music stand height? Do they pull the stands up to where they need to be? Because you go to contest and the setup crews push all the stands all the way down so they can move them. And that makes perfect sense. And the kids sit down, especially younger groups, and then they're afraid to move anything. They think, well, we're at contest. We better not. It'd be like going into a doctor's waiting room. You have the waiting room, then you have the little office you go into to wait again. Can you imagine getting up and rearranging everything in that room? That's how they feel. They're in the doctor's office and they're like, I don't know, I'm not going to touch the tongue dispensers. No. The blood pressure machine. No, I'm not going to. And they just sit there. It's like, no, get your stand height. I always tell them it was Tool Time was the name of the show. What was the show, Tim Allen? Yeah, the Tool Time was his fake show within the show, wasn't it?
Home Improvement.
Home Improvement. Thank you. The neighbor that stared over the fence. Yeah, and then that's dated now, so they don't know. I just hold up a folder in front of my face. So this is as much as I want to see of you. you know. So I don't want to see all of this because then you're looking down at the ground.
That's
And
great.
and so they kind of figure it out. But especially with your flute section, they'll have the stands low and the flutes will play out of tune because they're bending their neck and they're looking down at the ground and they're looking this way and they can't even see what you're doing. And then all of a sudden, guess what happens when flute players look down? The pitch goes down.
Right.
And then they'll tune their flute that way. And then all of a sudden they'll get to their favorite part. And guess what they do? They look up. And then it goes sky high sharp. And then the judges go, the flutes play really sharp here. And it's like, well, all it came down to is our stand height. So check that every day. Make sure they know it, especially a contest. Are the students interested and engaged in rehearsal? Kind of back to asking questions and listen.
Yep.
Ask questions on your own to determine what they're thinking. Okay. Rehearse like parts so they can actively hear who in the band is playing with them. We talked about the squat game. We call it the squatting game because that has like a connotation of, hey, we're squatting, you know. Okay.
Right.
Like being in the woods with a tent. Okay. So they're squatting. So, and this is a hard one. Oh my gosh. That's why I put it as number 13, the lucky number. Work to not be uptight in rehearsal. Be consistent and professional. Typo right there. With a touch of personality. They will reflect your emotion. They will. If you're uptight and tense, I've got a little collection.
Contagious.
Yeah, it is. Just have a collection of bad dad jokes, and they're like, oh, God, that was terrible. You know what I mean? But it just kind of breaks the tension for a second instead of just constantly. The days of my mentors being in your face and, you will play this right. You will play. Those days are gone, my friend. If you do that to a band nowadays, they are not, in my opinion, this is just my opinion. They'll check out on you because they don't want to listen to that. They will not do it. Musicians in the past could take more criticism and harsh criticism. It has to be very professional nowadays. And I'm not making excuses. It just is what it is.
Right. You can't, the beatings will continue till morale improves.
Yeah. I remember hearing a clinician working when I was a kid going, I'm assuming you all had the same beginning band director, but some of you must be smarter than others. And we took that as yes, sir. And nowadays you'd have to have a safe place and see a therapist, and then all of a sudden you'd have to call to the principal's office and there'd have to be documentation of how you insulted some child's intelligence, so it's just a different world and we must fit inside our new world. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. We just have to fit. Okay.
I'm going to throw this at you real quick because you said it.
Uh-oh.
I saw this saying that I was like, that's absolutely correct. This is a college student and he was teaching a class on failing. I mean, he was actually teaching people how failure is a part of what we do.
Yeah.
But what he said was, in his estimation, and I agree with him as more I think about it, intelligence is not really that much of a determining factor in success.
No, it's grit.
He said doing things the right way, having a calendar, doing what you say you're going to do, all these repetitious, and I hearken back to my friend Mike and his atomic habits. Your system is much more indicative of your success than your intelligence.
Oh God, yes. That shows your true grit that you can go through the process. Motivation is very short-lived. Yep. If you just say, I want to save money for retirement, or I want to save money to go on a vacation, you'll be motivated to do that. But the first time something pops up on your Facebook feed, and I really want that quarter zip, or I want to buy this, and the process will show who the better person is. Motivation,
and even more blunt than that. I don't care how smart you are. If you're lazy, you're not going to be successful.
Yeah. I posted something about a Steve Jobs quote on my Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great quote. Said basically paraphrase it. You can't really force someone to work hard that doesn't want to work hard. It's got to come from their gut. And the old adage that discipline is not what you do to a person. Discipline is a feeling inside your body that you will do things correctly, even when there's not an authoritative source to punish you.
Exactly.
We confuse the words punishment and discipline a lot, and I do too. So it's something to think about, So
I guess where I'm going with that is your kids can be successful no matter their intelligence level. Are you creating a system that they can work
Yes.
in to become better.
The process. And I'm going to throw out a plug for a good friend, Chris McClellan. He just published a book, and I already bought it. And now I feel stupid because I don't remember the exact title. But it's like the unconducting methodology or something like that. But I got the files, and then I got the book, and he's shipping the books now. But it is stunningly good. And the whole book's about process. It's not about how to make this phrase emote more musically and make mama cry in the back row. It's about how do we figure out how to recruit a kid from fifth grade to sixth grade? How do we do this? How do we do a marching rehearsal? How do we do the? And it's very. I mean, I guarantee you, as a first year teacher, you could use that book and you could be successful just by using that book. So, Chris McClellan, thank you for your insight on
I,
that.
I guess this is also a rebuttal to what you just said, that somebody said some of you must be smarter than the others. My argument is maybe you're not teaching that well.
Yeah,
Maybe
in
you're not
today's
teaching
world, that's
everybody
good.
a system.
Yeah, if I said that to a band, I guarantee you that some kid, rightfully so, would go, maybe some of the directors aren't as smart as other directors. They would throw it right back at you, and rightfully so. We just kind of
That's
took it,
funny.
didn't we? And this is a hard one too. All of them are hard ones, but take time, and I know it's at a premium. You're getting ready for contest to explain the contest logistics. What bus will they be on? What is the dress code? When are we eating lunch? What are we having for lunch? So they don't ask you in sight reading.
Right.
What's for lunch, Mr. Lunney? Take care
And
of
it
all
frees their little minds up to not worry about all of that stuff, and they can concentrate on what you're actually doing.
Yeah, and put it in an email or whatever band app you use or whatever it is. Or, I mean, even just put it on a piece of paper and stick it in their folders or something, because what you just said is golden. It's like you want them concentrating on what they're doing. You don't want them coming the day of contest going, are we wearing concert black or our band uniforms?
Right.
Or, are we eating lunch afterwards, or am I supposed to bring a snack? You know what I mean? And those things don't seem important to us because we're concentrating on the music, but we've all been performers in bands before, in musical ensembles. That's important information. I want to know if I need to bring me a little protein bar, because we're not going to eat lunch until 1:30 because of when we perform on stage at 12:15.
And a group full of overthinkers just need some stuff spelled out so they don't have to think about it.
And some of those kids are so OCD, man. They want to know, like, do you want, how do you want these shoelaces tied, Mr. Lunney? It's
I was about to say the same thing. Are we doing overhand knots?
Yeah. Do we double knot them? What are we doing here? Should we oil our valves right before? But we might drop a valve. So I love it when kids get to that level, because at least I want to say it this way: it's irritating, so irritating when they get to that level, but it's so cool that they care so much.
Yeah.
Let them care. Just bite your tongue and say, that is a really good question. You might say, that's the stupidest question I've ever heard in my life. But it just
seems obvious, but thank you for asking.
Question. We will double knot our shoelaces so that they won't come untied and you won't fall off stage and hurt yourself.
That's fun.
And then here's the best part. I love this. After it's all done, I hate to say, it's just band, because it is, but it's not. Tell them how proud of you are of their work. Not of a trapezoidal trophy, of their work, and for sticking to the process. Praising them for this instead of just results will help them so much more in the future in band and all the things they do. I like to do it I'd always do it at the end of sight reading. When we're starting to put up, we've just finished our sight reading piece, and I'll just tell them, just simply said, guys, I'm so proud of the work you've done this semester. And regardless of the ratings, it will not change the fact that I'm proud of everything you've done. You've worked the process. You did the best job we could do today. And let's go get on the bus and have lunch, and we'll continue from here. That way they know.
Take a moment and acknowledge we're a better group than we were 2 months ago.
Yes. And that you're praising them for their process, not the fact that we're trying to get a 1. Now, we are trying to get a 1. We're not fooling anybody, but don't praise them overly that, hey, you're a first division band. You are a sweepstakes band. It's okay to mention it, but if you live on that, you live and die by the same sword.
Right.
Something might happen.
Anything
weird.
less is failure. Yeah.
Yeah, and it becomes a pass fail contest. A one is a win. Anything else, you are a loser. And that's how the kids interpret it. If you just harp on, the writing is the most important thing. So,
Sure.
so I just wanted to kind of leave it with that. So it'd be a good moment for you to tell them. Also, if you're lucky enough to have parents in the sight reading room, they get to hear the fact that you are proud of their child.
Right.
And I don't do that just to be political leverage, but parents need to hear that too. They need to know what the process is. They need to know that you're proud of their kids.
I think these are fantastic things that you brought up. I just want to reemphasize before you close this out. Mr. Miss Band Director, please recognize that what you've done is important, and you're creating good people. And as we just said, look at the progress you've made over the last couple of weeks. Don't let 10 to 15 minutes on one day define your entire group.
Yes.
Trust the process, insist on the process, and then congratulate your kids for the process.
Because think about this, directors. You wouldn't want someone's opinion of you as a person based on your worst 15 minutes of your lifetime.
Well said. Best wishes for all of our friends on their way.
That's right. Do your thing and eat pizza.
Eat pizza.
Whether we get a 1 or a 5, boys, we're going to be eating pizza later. It's going to be a good day. All right. We'll see you later, Derek. I could go on forever.
I was just letting them.
I'm working here all weekend.